So we're holding in the laws of Shabbat, Siman Reish Samech Zayin, Reish Samech Vav, 266, and holding in Halacha Chet, continuing the laws of Shabbat. So we mentioned yesterday what happened if somebody is traveling with a group, with a caravan of people, and there is a concern that Shabbat commences, and there is a concern that suddenly, if he's not going to keep up with the caravan, it's going to be a dangerous situation. He cannot be by himself. So we learned that he is allowed to go on the carriage with them. He's allowed to ride if there is danger. Now, today's Halacha Ches, it says, number 8, the following rules apply when a person is traveling in a coach and the Shabbos is about to commence, when there is no concern for danger. There's no concern of danger, he must descend from the coach, from this wagon, while it is still day. If he did not descend from it while it was still day, he must remove all his goods from his person and place them on the coach before he descends from it. Leave all of his belonging on this coach. If the coach itself, without its wheels, is 4 handbreadth by 4 handbreadth, right? 4 by 4, without its wheels. 4 handbreadth by 4 handbreadth wide and 10 handbreadth high, without the height of its wheels, for then it is defined as a private domain in a complete sense, even though there is much empty space beneath it. This being so, when he descends to the ground, which is a Carmelis, it is forbidden for him to transfer an article from the Carmelis to a private domain. So what is a Carmelis? How come you didn't ask me? So Carmelis, we know that there is something called Reshut HaRabim, public domain, and there's something called Reshut HaYachid. No, public domain is public domain. The streets, you go out to the streets, public domain. Some argue that public domain have to have 600,000 people in it, or more or less, but that's public domain. The outside, this is a private place, belongs to Chabad. But there is also private domain, your house, right? Your driveway, you're allowed to tell somebody, get off my property, right? It's your place. Carmelis is a place that is in between. It's not Reshut HaYachid, it's not Reshut HaRabim. That's what Carmelis is.
It's like the street in front of my house.
It's like a questionable area, but it will describe it in more details over here. So it says, this, if it's 4 handbreadth by 4 handbreadth, the wagon, without its wheels, right? It is defined as a private domain, right? In a complete sense, even though there is much empty space beneath it. So think about it, if there is outside, well, let's say it's a small town that doesn't have 600,000 people going through it. It's not a public domain, because it doesn't have that criteria of it doesn't have the 600,000 people. But at the same time, it belongs to the public. Everybody can go there. So that's a Carmelis.
Yeah, I just moved from a town of 10,000 people, so the whole town.
Right.
Small town.
But is this in 4 handbreadths maximum or minimum?
In the minimum.
Minimum. Okay, so it
turns it into private domain. Yeah. Even though there is much empty space beneath it, this being so, when he descends to the ground, which is a Carmelis, he goes from a private domain, from the wagon, right? We said the wagon is private domain, and he goes from this wagon, from this carriage, into the street. Your car is a private domain, right? It's your space, even though you are in the Carmelis. Let's assume that this town doesn't have 600,000. So you're going from a private domain into a public domain, or into a Carmelis. which is a Carmelist, it is forbidden for him to transfer an article from the Carmelist to the private domain. And a person not allowed to transfer. That's why he has to leave his articles in the carriage. It says, and conversely, he is forbidden, in 42 in the note, it says, and conversely, he is forbidden to transfer an article from the coach to the ground. So that's why before he gets off the coach, he has to leave his stuff there. If the coach itself is not 10 handbreadth high, even though it is 10 handbreadth high together with its wheels, without the wheels is not. With the wheels it is. It is not considered as a private domain if there is an empty space of 3 handbreadth below it. It's meaning how distant it is from the ground. Some sport cars are very low, right? Cars are high.
And why,
When you are
Why they're very low to the ground?
next to the ground, you have more stability.
And
It is
they don't flip.
It's considered as a private
Sitting
domain.
almost in the ground.
It is considered as a private domain if there is an empty space of 3 handbreadth below it, as will be explained in section 345. And it is permitted to transfer an article from a Carmelist to it. If it is not 4 handbreadth by 4 handbreadth, even though it is 10 handbreadth high, it is categorized as a mokum p'tur. It says in 46, a mokum p'tur. What is a mokum p'tur? A place of p'tur that you don't have to, that you're p'tur. A place in the public domain that is distinct, but whose area is too small to warrant it being considered as a private domain. It's a distinct place, but it's not private domain. It's like someone has a spot. Those who, in the time where they would come to a Hasidic gathering by the Rabbi, some people have been there for years, so they had their pole that they would stand, and one of the hinges that came out of the pole, they would stand on top of it. It's a makom p'tur. It tells us it's a distinct place. It's their place, but on the other hand, whose area is too small to warrant it being considered as a private domain. You can't call it a private domain. It's too small. Or a Carmelist, any object less than 32 centimeters by 32 centimeters, slightly more than 12.5 inches, is considered the mokum p'tur. You should not give, so it tells us, and it is permitted to transfer an article into it even from a public domain. So in a case when it's 4 by 4, 4 handbreadth by 4 handbreadth, and the height also, not only the width 4 by 4, but the height is also 4 by 4, then it's called private domain. No problem with it. But what happens if it's not? If it doesn't have 4 by 4 by width and 4 by 4 height? Then the question is, how far is it from the ground? The height of the coach itself without the wheels, less than 10 handbreadth. If you look at the picture over here, it says A, the height of the coach itself without wheels, less than 10 handbreadth. B, the height of the coach together with the wheels, more than 10 handbreadth. C, the height from the ground until the bottom of the coach, 3 handbreadth or more. And D, the width of the coach less than 4 handbreadth. So even though it is 10 handbreadth high, it is categorized as a mokum p'tur, a distinct place that I cannot call it private domain. And it is permitted to transfer an article into it even from a public domain. So you can transfer from a public domain into a makom p'tur. If its upper portion is wider than 4 handbreadth by 4 handbreadth, it is considered a private domain, even though its lower portion is not that wide, as will be explained. And we read the note 47. In that source, the Alter Rebbe explains that we follow the principle of good aches mechitza. We consider the boundaries of the upper surface of the domain as if they extended straight to the ground without being reduced in size, even though in actual fact the area of the lower surface is less than that of the upper surface. Consider the boundaries of the upper surface of the domain as if they extended straight to the ground without being reduced in size. Even in actual fact, the area of the lower surface is less than the upper surface. We'll continue, God willing, tomorrow.
Rabbi, is this only if the wagon is